Chapter 35, Revelations and Farewell. Konoha Gates. Tsunade, Mabuki and Jiraiya were standing at the gates awaiting the arrival of Naruto's team. Naruto had sent a message that they would be arriving at any time and, as such, Tsunade was by the gates with a couple of umbus ready to take Uchiha Sasuke into custody pending his trial. They were all blinded by a bright yellow flash. Once they regained their vision, they focused on the 5 shinobi standing in front of them. They looked like they had been through some battle. Only Naruto and Hinata looked like they still had fighting capabilities. The others were sweating, with their clothes thrashed. Shikamaru seemed to be limping a little, but everyone else was rather healthy. Nothing a night's rest of sleep wouldn't cure. "Where is the Uchiha?" Tsunade asked, confused. From what she understood, the mission was successful with the capture of Sasuke. Here Naruto said and used his Kamui to drop Sasuke into the ground. "Thank you, Naruto-san," Mabuki said, and Naruto simply nodded. Mabuki slowly approached the Uchiha with a smile on her face. "This is for my daughter," Mabuki stated, and kicked him hard in the balls, making everyone male cringe at the sight. Even Akamaru whined. "What the hell happened?" Tsunade asked, looking towards the smoking Uchiha lying unconscious on the ground. "Don't tell me he gave you all this trouble?" Tsunade said, pointing to their clothes and general fatigue. "Orochimaru happened," Naruto replied, and Tsunade's eyes widened. She had sent 3 Genin up against a Sannin. "Thank God no one died." "Did you manage to kill him?" Jiraiya asked, but Naruto sadly shook his head. "He used the reverse summoning jutsu to escape," Naruto explained, and Tsunade sighed. "Orochimaru really was one slippery bastard, but he would meet his end sometime. But we did kill his 4 elite bodyguards as well, another one called Kagaya Kimimaro, the last of the Kagaya clan," Naruto explained, and Tsunade nodded. "Another thing," Naruto said, and Tsunade motioned him to go continue. "Orochimaru switched from vessel and can do hand seals again. He used the Edo Tensei to bring Kabuto back. Kabuto was fighting against us and I managed to obliterate him, but that won't stop Orochimaru from doing the jutsu again," Naruto explained, and Tsunade sighed, rubbing her temples. "It doesn't matter at this point. Shikamaru, can you walk?" Tsunade asked, and he nodded. "Report to the hospital for treatment. All of are dismissed." "Naruto, we have a council meeting to determine the fate of Uchiha Sasuke," Tsunade explained, and everyone nodded. She turned to Sasuke, who was being dragged away with an angry Mabuki running after the Umbu. "I'll see you at home, Hinata-kun," Naruto said, pecking her cheek, and left to the Hokage Tower. Hokage Tower Council Room. Once Naruto and Tsunade had arrived at the council room, everyone was already assembled. Uchiha Sasuke was standing in the middle of the room, bound with chakra-suppressing tags and simple handcuffs. By his side was a single Umbu guarding him. Any aggressive move from Sasuke and the Umbu would end his life before the trial had even begun. "The council is in session to determine the fate of Uchiha Sasuke for the murder of Haruno Sakura," Tsunade said, and glared at the Uchiha. "What proof do you have of that?" Sasuke asked, smirking. He knew very well how to cover his tracks. He left her in nothing more than ashes and, as such, there wouldn't be any evidence that he was the one that killed her. "We have a confession from Sakura herself," Tsunade said. "What?" Sasuke asked in disbelief. "If she is dead, then how come you have a confession?" Sasuke yelled. "Naruto," Tsunade said, and everyone snickered while Naruto just sat here, brought her back to find out what happened, Tsunade explained. She looked at the panicking Uchiha with a look that said, "I got you now, bitch. Do you have anything to say?" Tsunade asked, but Sasuke remained silent. "Let's wrap this up and end it once and for all," Tsunade said as she got up from her seat. "I call for the execution of Uchiha Sasuke for the murder of Haruno Sakura." "Anyone against?" Tsunade asked, but was interrupted before she could go on. "You can't do that. I'm an Uchiha, you can't afford to lose the Sharingan," Sasuke yelled and smirked, thinking he got them. Tsunade just looked at him with a pathetic look. "You seem to be forgetting about Naruto," Tsunade simply stated, making Sasuke's eyes widen. He wasn't the last Uchiha anymore, so he was expendable. "And it was you that brought this upon you," Tsunade said, and was about to call the vote when she was interrupted by Mabuki. "If I may suggest an alternative sentence," Hokage-sama, Mabuki said with a very sick smile that sent shivers Sasuke. Sasuke was considering that maybe death would far better than what was coming. I want his chakra molding capabilities destroyed and that he spends his life in jail. I want him to know that he will never have his revenge on his older brother. I want him to feel the desperation as he slowly withers away into old age, knowing that he would never avenge his family, Mabuki said, smiling, and even Tsunade shivered. That was one cold sentence, even worse than death. Sasuke would be locked up forever, knowing that his family would have died in vain and that their killer would walk the earth free. Hell hath no fury like a woman scorned, Shikaku thought to himself. I don't see why not. Everyone in favor? Tsunade asked, smirking, and everyone raised their hands with the exception of Danzo, but no one gave two craps about him. The sentence will be carried immediately, Tsunade said and motioned to Naruto to destroy his chakra network. In essence, Sasuke would be a civilian when Naruto was done with him. Naruto stood up and walked calmly towards Sasuke with an impassive face. Sasuke just stood and watched his doom walk towards him. Stay away. I'm not going down like this, Sasuke yelled and struggled to get free, but he couldn't mold chakra and the cuffs were too strong for him to break. Not that he would go anywhere if he ever did break them. Naruto arrived near Sasuke, who was shaking from fear. Naruto placed his right hand over his chest and focused his chakra. Kanji started spreading through his whole body until it covered it completely. This is the same seal I used in Orochimaru during the invasion, Naruto explained and turned to Tsunade, who nodded for him to proceed. This might sting a little bit, Naruto said as he placed his right hand in the tiger seal. Activate, Naruto said and activated his seal. Sasuke screamed in pain and rolled on the ground. Naruto took the liberty of delaying the destruction as much as possible as further punishment for his actions. Around 5 minutes later, Sasuke stopped screaming and simply laid on the ground with labored breaths. If anyone looked at him, you could see his dead look. The look of someone who just had his entire life taken away and was forced to know that he would never get what he wanted. Can you confirm, Hayashisan? Tsunade asked. I confirm. His chakra network is destroyed. At this point he won't even be able to make a simple Bunshin clone, Hayashi stated, and Tsunade nodded. Or, Tsunade said, and the Umbu kneeled in front of her. Take Sasuke and show him his home for the rest of his life. Make sure it's warm and cozy, Tsunade sarcastically said, and bowed before picking up Sasuke and leaving the room. This meeting is adjourned, Tsunade said, and everyone left the room. Konoha's IT department temporary holding cell prisoner, Uchiha Sasuke was sitting in his bed in his cell. Sasuke had a blank look on his face and was looking at the wall as if waiting for answers. Foolish little brother, Sasuke heard and turned to look outside of his cell only to find Uchiha Itachi standing there with an amused smile on his face. Itachi! I'll kill you, Sasuke yelled and tried to break the iron bars of his cell. Quiet down before we knock you out, an Umbu said from the corridor. Sasuke looked towards where Itachi was only to find that he was gone. Maybe death would have been a better outcome. Sasuke suddenly heard a noise and looked towards the Umbu, who was knocked out and lying on the ground. We are leaving, Sasuke, a voice said from behind him. Sasuke stumbled into the ground when he saw a figure sitting on his bed. He was wearing a black cloak with red clouds, but the most distinguishing thing was his orange mask with a swirl pattern. The mask had a single hole for his right eye. Who are you? Sasuke asked, slowly backing away as far as he could. That will come at a later time, Tobi said as he absorbed Sasuke into his eyes and proceeded to warp away from Konoha. Senju compound. Late that night, back at the Senju compound, Naruto and Gaara were packing while Jiraiya was waiting for them. They were about to leave in their 3-year training trip. Even though Naruto assured everyone that he would regularly visit and that would bring Gaara, everyone was still a little sad. Hinata was also sad. Naruto told her that he would visit her every day, but that wasn't enough. They had been living together for years and they spent almost all of the day together, only to at night sleep together, sharing each other's warmth. Don't worry, Hinata. Maybe if you give it all you can join them in their trip, Tsunade said, and Hinata slowly nodded. Naruto walked out of the room with a large scroll on his back. Gaara also had a scroll trapped around his sand gourd. I guess this is it, Hinata, and Naruto said, approaching and hugging her. I'll see you tomorrow, Princess, Naruto said and gave her a slow and passionate kiss. They reluctantly broke away when Jiraiya warned them that he wanted to arrive into next town before it was night. Until we see you again, Naruto said, and the three of them dashed away from the Senju compound.
I'm going to miss that pervert, Tsunade said, wiping away a small tear.
Akatsuki hideout Toby arrived at his hideout and proceeded to remove Sasuke from his dimension. Sasuke fell to the ground and slowly backed away from the man standing in front of him. Without chakra, Sasuke knew that he was powerless and that pretty much any shinobi could take him on and defeat him. Relax, Sasuke, Toby said, slowly moving his hands towards his mask. I take care of my family, Toby said as he removed his mask, only for Sasuke to widen his eyes and promptly faint.
Otogakure Deep and Otogakure, Orochimaru, and the newly summoned Kabuto were buried deep inside a lab.
In the middle of the lab, connected to several pipes and wires, was a large tank filled with a green fluid.
Inside the tank was a small ball of something. Judging by the grinning face of Orochimaru, it must be something good.
Orochimaru was salivating at the prospect of having the Sharingan bloodline he always craved for.
Orochimaru just watched as his new creation was slowly maturing away.
During his battle with Naruto, Kabuto had managed to extract a couple of vials of blood from Sasuke. Orochimaru, together with Kabuto, had engineered a perfect replica of Uchiha Sasuke, who was now slowly maturing away inside the tank.
How long until the vessel is viable for use? Orochimaru asked to Kabuto, who was running simulations in a nearby computer.
I estimate 3 years, Orochimaru-sama, Kabuto replied.
Good, Orochimaru said, licking his lips.
Akatsuki hideout Sasuke had recently been brought back to the land of the living as was staring at the figure in front of him.
Kai Sasuke tried flaring his chakra, but nothing happened for 2 reasons. First, the person in front of him wasn't an illusion, and second, he couldn't manipulate chakra in the first place, so he couldn't break the illusion even if he tried.
Father? Sasuke slowly asked towards the figure. The person standing in front of Sasuke without the mask had short, black hair that reached to his shoulders and onyx-colored eyes, with visible creases below them.
You can't be.
You're dead, Sasuke said, shaking.
The person in front of him couldn't possibly be, and yet he was.
Uchiha Fugaku was standing in front of Sasuke impassively looking at him. I assure you that I'm very real, Sasuke Fugaku said in his typical cold and emotionless voice.
Why didn't come back to Konoha if you were alive? Why did you leave me all alone in there? Sasuke yelled. He needed answers, and he needed them now.
I'm sorry, Sasuke, but neither of those things were possible.
I'll explain everything, just listen, Fugaku said, and Sasuke slowly nodded.
For starters, Itachi didn't simply kill our clan to test his strengths as he told you. If he ever had to measure against me, he would lose.
The reason he decided to kill our clan was because of orders. We are Uchiha's elite.
We deserve to control Konoha and rule it, unlike the Senjus. 14 years ago I summoned the Kyuubi, and the Uchiha clan was supposed to take control of the village after the confusion was over, Fugaku said.
However, that blasted Namikaze beat me to it.
He was able to wound me and seal the Kyuubi into his newborn son, Senju Naruto. A couple of years after the Kyuubi incident, the Sandaime and his advisors became suspicious about the origin of the Kyuubi's attack and decided to investigate.
At that time, we were preparing a coup d'état to take control of the village.
They decided to plant a spy inside our clan, and who better than Itachi, who was a peace-loving shinobi.
Understand so far? Fugaku asked, and Sasuke slowly nodded, taking everything in.
Itachi began working as spy for the Sandaime, providing information every time our clan gathered. I knew that our clan would stand no chance if the village was prepared to our attack. We had lost our element of surprise only because Itachi chose Konoha over his own blood, Fugaku said, gritting his teeth. I had to come with a solution to save our clan, and the only choice was to kill them all, Fugaku said.
You call saving our clan killing everyone? Sasuke yelled, and Fugaku sighed.
Sasuke, Fugaku started our clan is alive and well, Fugaku said, and Sasuke froze.
What do you mean?
Sasuke asked, confused. This thing was confusing him to hell, and nothing was making any sense.
Zetsu, Fugaku said, and a plant-like shinobi emerged from the ground.
This is Zetsu, a member of the Akatsuki and my personal servant. Fetch a clone, Fugaku ordered, and Zetsu formed a white clone who stood there waiting for orders.
Fugaku made a small sign, and the Zetsu clone touched Sasuke and immediately took his form.
Fugaku proceeded to kill the clone, but his shape and appearance remained. These clones are special.
They can replicate the DNA structure of anyone they touch, and even if they die they remain with it. Not even the more skilled medics can tell the difference. I used these clones and replaced the whole Uchiha clan with fakes. Their Sharingan is also functional to some extent, Fugaku explained. Then that means that Sasuke didn't finish, but Fugaku completed the blanks. That everyone is still alive and in hiding. Your mother, uncle, cousins. Everyone, Fugaku said, and Sasuke smiled before scowling again. Then why did you leave me there all alone? Sasuke asked in a low voice. He was happy that his clan was alive. But what would that make for Itachi? I'm sorry, but we had no choice. Itachi decided, in all his mercy, to spare you while he wiped out the clan. While these clones are foolproof, they aren't made for battle. They are very weak and we couldn't risk it letting one in your place. The same way we could never retrieve you from Konoha, it would raise too many suspicion, Fugaku explained, and Sasuke slowly nodded. What about Itachi? Sasuke asked. Yes. That fool Fugaku started. Did you know that I learned from Uchiha Madara and that I'm working on a plan designed by him? Fugaku said, and Sasuke's eyes widened. Naruto's grandfather? Sasuke asked, and Fugaku nodded, chuckling. Now that was a twist I wasn't expecting. He never said anything about having a son, Fugaku said, sighing. During my reign as clan leader I often had a clone take my place in Konoha so I could focus on our plans outside of the village. One time, Itachi contacted me thinking I was Uchiha Madara. He confided in me everything without knowing that he was talking to his own father, Fugaku said, laughing. Itachi, the so-called genius, was fooled in the end. You will deal with him when the times comes. I think of no better punishment than making him live with all the guilt and remorse when in fact he never killed anyone. Once I find you strong enough to deal with him, I'll let you kill him. He was a traitor to his own clan. He chose Konoha instead of his own blood and flesh, Fugaku snarled. I can't do anything. I can't manipulate chakra anymore, Sasuke said, looking down. No need to worry. I can easily fix that once I inject you with some of Zetsu cells. They will boost your power and fix any wound you may have, Fugaku said, and Sasuke smirked. So Sasuke, Fugaku started, will you stand by Konoha or your own blood? Fugaku asked. I stand for our clan. Itachi will pay and the Uchiha will rise. Chapter 36, Special Chapter. A true god rises. Things you should know before this chapter. Yotan, Yang release, based on the physical energy that governs vitality, can be used to breathe life into form. Inton, Yin release, techniques based on the spiritual energy that governs the imagination, can be used to create form out of nothingness. On Mayaton, Yin Yang release, techniques that combine both Yang and Yin release. I'm changing Tsunade's Yin seal to Yang seal as it doesn't make sense. Tsunade releases the seal to speed up the cell division. Yang release is responsible for vitality while Yin is for creation. Tsunade isn't creating anything as the cells already exist, she's simply speeding up their division and thus healing herself. Now, the Senju clan never did receive a bloodline from the sage. While anyone can use both Yang and Yin released separately, I'm making both Senju and Uchiha clans more talented in using Yang and Yin release respectively. The Senju clan have strong bodies due to their higher affinity, if you could call it that, to Yang release, while the Uchihas have Yin released for their Sharingan and Genjutsu. Yang release is the reason why the Mokutan bloodline is so unique. It creates actual living trees and not some dead thing. Hashirama combines earth, water, and the yang element to create life in the trees he uses. The true power of the Rinnegan is that allows the use of yin-yang release. According to Wiki, Madara created the Zetsu using that. I'm making Naruto a complete master of this to a level that Madara won't be able to reach for a very simple reason. Naruto has Senju and Uchiha DNA in perfect balance while Madara simply injected Senju cells in himself. Chapter start. What is a god? Is it a being that is immortal? If that is true, you might say a certain type jellyfish might be considered a god as it has the potential for immortality. Is it a being that knows everything? If that's so, then the Yamanaka could be considered gods as they have the ability to read thoughts and control another's actions. Is it a being that can give and take life as he pleases? If so,
then Pain might be considered a god as he can give life to those recently departed.
Is someone that can be at all places at once?
Then Naruto could be considered a god with shadow clones and Hiraishin. There are different religions through the world, but in ours a god is considered someone who can be everywhere, omnipresent, know everything including people's thoughts, omniscient, and someone who is all-powerful. With this three requisites, the god can do anything he wishes. And now, Naruto is about to achieve just that.
Land of Iron. 2 years had passed since Naruto, Gaara, and Jiraiya had left Konoha in their training trip.
Hyuga Hinata had also recently joined them since she had finished her training with Senju Tsunade earlier. Hinata was a true prodigy in medicine but also in combat. Armed with her Byakugan eyes, she could instantly diagnose any type of injury or disease anyone carried.
Her eyes seemed to improve her chakra control beyond normal standard of ordinary shinobi.
Her chakra control and reserves were on par with Tsunade, as was her knowledge of medical techniques and Tsunade's monstrous strength. She also received the slug contract from Tsunade as she had no one to pass it to, thus making Hinata Tsunade's heir and apprentice. Hinata had also surpassed both Anko and Shizen in poison making. Not much of a surprise when you grow up leaving with a guinea pig in which you can test out all of your poisons. And the fact the guinea pig didn't die from them was just a plus.
Naruto thanked the heavens when he noticed that Hinata remained the sweet and caring girl even after training with Anko.
Naruto shivered at the thought of living with a Hinata, Anko style.
Considering Naruto and Gaara, they both advanced with Jiraiya as their teacher. While Naruto could best Jiraiya anytime in terms of raw power, he didn't have yet the finesse in other areas.
That's why they would sometimes take on a few missions so that they could gain valuable experience. Currently it's almost dawn and we find Naruto of 16 years old, almost 17, walking to their hotel after another of training day. "I'm home," Naruto said with a tired and strained voice.
Hinata looked up from her notes.
The first thing you would notice about Hinata's changes would be the purple diamond figure in the middle of her forehead.
Hinata had grown into a very beautiful woman.
She was around 5 feet 7 inches, with a slim figure worthy of a goddess. She had long and toned legs, smooth skin, and a well-developed chest, a round cup in size. Hinata had retained her straight, Heim-style haircut, but she let her hair grow to waist length. The short strands that frame her face remained, but were now shoulder length. She now wore a new attire comprised of a loose-fitting, long-sleeved, dark blue and white zip-up jacket with dark blue over mesh armor with black pants and black, low-heeled sandals. On the back of her zip-up jacket she had the symbol for yin and yang.
"Are you feeling well, Naruto-kun?" Hinata asked, worried.
While Naruto didn't show any external signs of a disease, she was a trained medic and easily spotted his slight discomfort.
"Is something wrong?"
Jiraiya asked him, making Gaara look at Naruto concerned. "I don't really know," Naruto said, flexing his body. "My chakra feels weird," Naruto stated as he released a small amount. His chakra seemed to be unstable and uncontrollable at this point.
"Let me take a look," Hinata said and activated her Byakugan.
She was surprised when she saw Naruto's chakra acting up. It was like the chakra had a mind of his own and was all over the place in his body. It seemed to be affecting his muscles, bones, but it seemed more concentrated around his eyes.
"You are right, your chakra is acting weird. Lie down so I can properly check," Hinata stated, and Naruto sighed.
"I don't feel," Naruto was saying but didn't manage to finish as he simply fell to the ground completely unconscious. It was extremely rare for anyone to simply drop to the ground while talking. Naruto, all of them yelled and rushed to check up on him.
Hinata was the first to arrive and was already performing a diagnosis with her eyes, trying to find what was wrong.
She didn't understand, his chakra network was extremely active, too active for someone who had just passed out. His chakras seemed to be changing and rewriting his chakra coils. "Get back," Hinata yelled, and everyone jumped back just in time to avoid a small shockwave of chakra that radiated from his body.
His once deep blue chakra was now light silver, like the moon.
His chakra capacity seemed to be increasing as this new chakra seemed thicker than his old one. His chakra felt so peaceful and yet strong, so unrestrained and yet controlled. Eventually the chakra calmed down and everyone let out a sigh of relief. Naruto groaned as he slowly regained his conscience, but he felt somewhat stiff.
Hinata could see his new chakra working overtime in his muscles.
He slowly opened his eyes and everyone's breath hitched. His once blue eyes, or red one if was using the Sharingan, now had a ripple pattern in them. His eyes were silver with several concentric circles around his pupil, who seemed to have shrunk. Naruto's eyes had shifted into the Rinnegan, the eyes of the gods. The eyes of the sage of the six paths, the father of all ninjutsu. Father. Kurama/Shikaku whispered from their host's mindscape. There will come a time when all of you will be lead down the right path. Kurama remembered the last words of his father just as he passed away. Is it Naruto? Kurama thought, looking at the fainted form of Naruto. That's the... Hinata thought to herself as she gazed upon the new eyes of Naruto. Rinnegan Jiraiya thought, gobsmacked. It's true that he had seen them before, but he never saw one activating itself in front of him. Naruto groggily opened his eyes only to pass out again. Hinata approached him and did a quick checkup only to notice that he was only sleeping, but he seemed to be running with a small fever. She took him to their bedroom. Please be all right. Hinata whispered, clutching to his arm as she fell asleep next to him. Naruto's mindscape. Naruto woke up in his mindscape with Kurama looking at him curiously. Kurama was still trying to figure out how in the world would Naruto be able to awaken the Rinnegan. The eyes of his father, how Naruto did that he couldn't even start to understand. In the other hand, the sage of the six paths always talked in riddles when addressing the nine bijou. Kurama, what happened? Naruto asked as he groggily got up. His head seemed to be on fire. Forget that, his whole body seemed to on fire. Although it didn't hurt, it felt somewhat annoying. TSK, Kurama scoffed. Do you even know what you just unlocked? Kurama asked and sighed at the oblivious face of Naruto. That's why I asked for a ball. The last thing I remind is talking to Hinata, and Naruto explained with a tick mark on his eyes. You just unlocked the Rinnegan. My father's eyes, Kurama yelled, and Naruto's jaw dropped. He blinked, and blinked again as his brain rebooted and he processed the words he just heard. He quickly approached a nearby lake that he had created when he changed his mindscape to a more comfortable place. He immediately noticed his eyes. Instead of the traditional deep blue or blood red, they were now a dark silver with concentric circles around his pupil. He looked around and noticed that he could see chakra to a whole different level. While not in a detail that would rival with the Byakugan, he seemed to be able to see chakra everywhere. Kurama had red chakra while everything around him had a dark silver tone. Naruto withdrew chakra from his eyes and noticed how it receded back to his usual Manjikyu, then to his Sharingan until it stopped in his deep blue eyes. Naruto had unlocked the next level of his eyes. The final level of the Sharingan, the Rinnegan. The eyes of the gods that belong to the Rikudo Sennin, father to all shinobi. The most revered jujutsu in all existence. Of three great eyes, the Rinnegan was the most prized and powerful. On another perspective, the Rinnegan appeared to be the natural evolution to the Sharingan and, as such, it was only supposed to be two great jujutsus. Though Naruto wondered why never any Uchiha had unlocked it before. My eyes keep changing. The moment I've mastered my Manjikyu, another one pops out, Naruto said, sighing. Although he was very glad for this power boost. Ungrateful brat. Many people would kill just so they could put their hands on those eyes, Kurama reprimanded the boy. I know, Naruto said, waving his hands in defeat. So Naruto started in a sing-sang voice as his eyes instantly flashed into the Rinnegan. What can these eyes do? Naruto asked giddy. Why would I know? Kurama replied. You said that these eyes belong to your father, Naruto said in a deadpan voice. Yes, I did, but that doesn't mean I ever saw him training them, Kurama said, sighing. I know a couple of powers, but the rest are unknown to me, Kurama explained, and Naruto nodded. I only know that it gives you control over all the elements, the Deva Path and Preta Path, Kurama said, and Naruto was drooling. Just the prospect of having natural affinities for all elements was good enough for him. Paths? Naruto asked, confused. Yes. The Deva Path allows you to control gravity and the Preta Path allows you to absorb chakra, Kurama explained, and Naruto's jaw dropped. His eyes were the best thing it had ever happened to him. You said there were more? Naruto asked giddy to know the rest. It's best that I don't tell him about summoning the Geto Mazo. I hope he never learns about it. Some things are best locked away for all eternity, Kurama thought to himself before thinking what to answer to Naruto.
There are more powers. The reason he was called the Sage of the Six Paths was because he had more of these paths, but I only know of those two, Kurama said, and Naruto nodded. Why did I faint? Naruto asked, trying to find some answer. You fool. You think that the Rinnegan is a simple dojutsu compared to the likes of the Sharingan or Byakugan. You think that just because your eyes change, you suddenly can use all 5 elemental natures? Kurama rhetorically asked. The awakening of the Rinnegan changes the host's body so they can withstand their power. It's the reason why your chakra is now silver, the reason as to, right now, your muscles are being rebuilt to be stronger than anyone else's, Kurama explained, and Naruto took the information like a sponge. I understand, but why did it activate so suddenly? Naruto rhetorically asked. I did nothing out of the ordinary today, Naruto stated, but Kurama was deep in thought. You should check the Hyuga's and Uchiha's clan libraries. They might have information regarding it, as both clans are Jujutsu wielders. As of now I might have a theory, Kurama said, and Naruto motioned him to go on. As you know, my father had 2 sons, each one inheriting a piece of his power. The older brother, Ken, started the Uchiha clan, while the younger one, Shin, started the Senju clan Kurama started. Both Uchiha Ken and Senju Shin had descendants through the ages, disregarding the half-blood Uchihas, coming down until the last of each clan. Both your mother, Senju Kushina, and your father, Uchiha Minato, were the last of each other's clans. You achieving the Rinnegan might come from the fact that both the Senju and Uchiha's blood are together in you. Were it once divided in my father, it came together in you, Kurama explained. It's ironic, in fact, Kurama said, chuckling. Both clans started with my father and they seem to end with you. With Tsunade being past reproducing age, you are the last of both Senju and the Uchiha clan, the last descent of the Sage of Six Paths, the last leaf of a once mighty tree, Kurama said in a sad voice. If I ever have any kids, do you think they will inherit my Rinnegan, or will my power be split between them? Naruto curiously asked. It's a good question, though only time will tell. Even though I'm sad to see my father's line reduced to a single member, at least the last member bears the same eyes as the original. Like I said, it's ironic. It feels like everything was meant to end with you, as both clans are extinct and the last member bears the Rinnegan, Kurama said, chuckling sadly. I guess, Naruto muttered, but you still didn't answer my question as to why it suddenly activated, Naruto stated, and Kurama got deep in thought. Building on the premise that the Rinnegan is achieved with both Senju and Uchiha blood, it's possible that could only be achieved once your body had fully matured. Moments earlier, before you fainted, I noticed that your yin and yang chakras seemed to be in perfect balance with each other, Kurama said. Look at it this way. Your body was too young to match the power of your soul. What I mean is that your yang chakra was weaker than your yin due to the fact that your body was still developing. Today must have marked the point where both energies balanced each other out to perfection, thus leading to the activation of your eyes, Kurama explained, and Naruto nodded, taking everything in. How do you come up with all this stuff? Naruto asked, surprised the fox's knowledge and reasoning. I'm just that good, Kurama boasted, puffing his chest out, making Naruto stare at him get going. Your mate needs you, Kurama said, and Naruto left this mindscape. Naruto and Hinata's room. Naruto returned from his mindscape and found himself lying in his bed. He looked outside and the moon was shining in the sky. He looked down to see Hinata asleep next to him, clutching his arm furiously. Naruto brushed a few strands of her hair to the side so he could gaze upon her beautiful and angelic face. It was then that he noticed dried tears in her cheeks. Hinata, and Naruto whispered gently, running his hands through her soft cheeks. He bent down and placed a small kiss on her forehead, making her stir. She slowly opened her eyes, adjusting to the small light of the room, and noticed Naruto awake and staring deeply into her eyes. Naruto-kun, Hinata choked out and hugged him fiercely while crying. I was worried about you when you fainted like that, Hinata said, and Naruto simply hugged her, showing that he wasn't going anywhere. You know me, Naruto said, breaking the hug. He brought his forehead to hers and locked eyes with her. I don't stay down for long, Naruto said, looking at her with caring eyes filled with love. I talked with Kurama, it was just a byproduct of my Rinnegan activating. I'm not going anywhere soon. I'm staying with you forever, Naruto whispered and gently closed the gap between them. Their lips brushed together at first until they locked in a deep, passionate kiss. All the while, Naruto was caressing her face, feeling her smooth, flawless skin.
Lemon scene skip if you wish. Naruto and Hinata broke the kiss and simple stared at each other. Their eyes locked with each other's, each bearing all the love they felt for each other. There was nothing that could split them. They had been made for each other, like yin and yang. Naruto hugged Hinata and rolled on the bed until he was on top of her, never breaking their gaze. Hinata was mildly blushing. She had no idea how much Naruto liked to see her blush and giggle. He was in love with everything about her, her blush when embarrassed, her smile, laughs. He loved everything in her, she was perfect for him. Hinata was a very brave kunoichi, but what he loved most was her caring attitude to anyone, but even more to him. Naruto broke his gaze and kissed her again. Their lips brushed together, each one enjoying the warmth and softness of each other's lips. Naruto playfully licked her bottom lip, asking for entrance. She gladly opened her mouth, making their tongues clash. Naruto explored her mouth, leaving no corner alone. They were so enticed by the sensation that they didn't stop until they needed some air. They both split, gasping for air. Are you going to keep staring? Hinata teased, breaking Naruto from his dreams and making him chuckle. Maybe, Naruto playfully replied, kissing her again. Naruto started running his hands through her back, all the way into her smooth thighs. Naruto broke the kiss and started kissing her neck. He slowly brought his right hand up, feeling every inch of her body, her flat stomach, her firm breasts. He slowly unzipped her jacket and threw it out of the way. Underneath she had her mesh shirt and Naruto hesitated. Hinata noticed it and herself leaned up and removed her mesh shirt, remaining in nothing more than a purple bra. Their hearts were running a mile per minute. Naruto just stared at her. They might have lived together for a few years, but they still had their privacy. Hinata felt bold and took his hand and placed it on her breast. Naruto just stared at her until he gently squeezed her breast, enlisting a smile of satisfaction from Hinata. Her breasts were perfect, perky cups. Naruto ran his hands through them, gently squeezing them, feeling how soft and warm they were. Naruto unclipped her bra and threw it out of way, leaving the twins out. Naruto used his thumb to twirl her pink nipples. Hearing a small groan, Naruto figured she liked it and continued his ministrations. While Naruto was playing with her breasts, Hinata was slightly dazed. That feeling was incredible that she just wanted to savor it and enjoy it as long as she could. Naruto had never touched breasts in his life, so he decided to experiment a little bit. He placed a hand on each one. He squeezed both breasts and heard a small moan as he continued to try out new things with his toys. Hinata frowned when Naruto detached himself from her breasts, but that was short-lived when Naruto brought his mouth to her right nipple and began to suck on it, gently at first but then a little more rough. Hinata threw her head back, rising her chest at the new sensation. She was on cloud nine and Naruto was only working on her breasts. His wet tongue felt so different in her nipples, but she enjoyed it very much. She gasped as he alternated to her other breast and used his hands to keep both busy. Hinata didn't want to be the only one naked between both of them. She hugged Naruto and rolled him around until she was on top of him. You are the one with too many clothes now, Hinata teased, and Naruto didn't need to be told twice. He quickly removed his jacket and shirt, leaving his torso naked. She admired his physique, his broad shoulders, muscles, and toned chest. She leaned down and ran her hands through his chest, feeling his muscles. You are perfect, Hinata, and Naruto said, wrapping his arm around her and bringing her lips to his own. They met in a love-filled kiss. Once they broke apart, Naruto carefully observed Hinata's body. Even though they were shinobi, she was perfect. No trace of scars or other cuts, her skin was smooth and flawless. Hinata sighed blissfully as Naruto started planting butterfly kisses everywhere. Naruto traced her jawline and began descending, kissing both breasts and going down onto her flat stomach. Naruto reached his next obstacle, her pants, since they still had clothes from the waist down. Naruto looked up, asking for permission, to which Hinata nodded. Naruto quickly removed her pants, leaving her in just purple underwear that matched her long removed bra. Naruto trailed both her thighs, leaving kisses all over until he reached the middle section. Naruto noticed that her panties were soaked, that they almost see-through. Hinata felt an urge to cover herself from embarrassment, but she didn't get the chance as Naruto gave her a long lick through the fabric. Her breath hitched and she let out a loud moan of pleasure.
"You're so wet," Princess Naruto teased, looking at her embarrassed face.
"Shut up," Hinata said between breaths.
Naruto chuckled slightly before slowly removing her panties. Naruto took a good look at her womanhood and it was dripping with her arousal. Hinata's body tensed as Naruto approached her, but she quickly forgot that when Naruto's mouth latched itself to her core. Hinata's back lifted from the bed as Naruto began licking her moist entrance.
Naruto noticed that Hinata seemed to shiver every time Naruto gave her a long lick.
Naruto was happy that he could pleasure his lover with just a simple touch. Her breathing was harsh and uncontrollable. She reached down and grabbed Naruto's hair, needing to hold onto him, unknowingly pushing him deeper. Naruto continued licking her over and over, hearing the moans that filled the room, licking around her nether lips, clit, and driving his tongue into her. This was an all-new experience for her and she loved it. And narrow Hinata moaned as Naruto drove his tongue inside her wet folds and started exploring. Naruto's tongue swirled inside her womanhood, trying to reach everywhere. Naruto removed his tongue from her folds and detached himself from her. He looked up to see Hinata's clouded face from the pleasure.
Naruto gently licked a small nub of nerves, making Hinata gasp and moan even louder. Naruto was happy he placed a silent seal, otherwise they would star on Ika Ika. Naruto resumed his ministrations on Hinata until he felt her start shaking and he assumed she was close. Just that feeling of Hinata squirming under him made him want to devour her even more. Hinata was losing her mind, she could barely think at this point.
And narrate.
I am gonna.
Oh God, Hinata didn't get to finish as she yelled and came all over Naruto's face. Her hips raised from the bed as she gripped Naruto's hair hard as she came down from her orgasm.
Hinata collapsed on the bed, breathing hard and with sweat rolling over her body.
Her body seemed to be glowing under the moon's light.
Naruto licked the remaining juices from Hinata and rose to meet her face.
"You are delicious," Princess Naruto said, wiping his mouth with his forearm as someone who just finished a meal.
Hinata looked down to see the bulge in his pants.
Hinata had already seen Naruto all naked with her Byakugan eyes, and she knew how big he was. It must feel discomforting having his hard member trapped.
"Naruto-kun. I want you," Hinata whispered as they broke their kiss.
"Are you sure?"
Naruto asked.
He loved her more than anything and he didn't want to pressure her in any way. Hinata simply nodded and rolled herself to be on top of him. She undid his pants and threw them into the ground, including his boxers. His member was now free and standing at full attention. Naruto wrapped his arms around her and rolled so he was on top and positioned his 8-inch hard member at her wet entrance. He glanced towards Hinata, who was running her hands through his back as Naruto began pushing in. Naruto sighed as he felt her barrier and knew that there was no way around it.
He suddenly pushed his dick into Hinata's pussy, getting a wince from her.
She sank her nails into Naruto's back, but he bit back the pain. Naruto leaned forward and kissed her to lessen the pain of having her virginity taken until he rested inside her.
She was very slippery and yet still tight.
Hinata never felt so full of something in her life. It felt amazing to be connected to the person she loved above all in this world.
Naruto didn't move, allowing Hinata to adjust herself to his member.
"You can move now," Hinata said, and Naruto nodded, slowly withdrawing his member before pushing back in. This feeling was indescribable to him, it felt unbelievably good.
She was really tight, wet, hot, and it felt great.
He kept up a moderate pace until she was adjusted. Naruto moved slowly at first until he began to speed up, rocking his hips.
"Ugh, hi. It's amazing," Hinata moaned out. Hinata's breathing was labored as was Naruto's. "You are perfect, Hinata," and Naruto groaned out as he continued his thrusts. Naruto would speed up when she moaned louder as he liked doing it faster. "Faster," she said, and Naruto complied, speeding up.
"Harder," she said a while later, and once again, Naruto complied, burying himself completely inside of her and receiving a moan of approval. He could hear his skin smacking hers as he continued to make sweet love to the woman he treasured. Naruto moved his head up and kissed her deeply, never stopping his love-making. Naruto could feel the sweat form on his body, and looking down at Hinata he saw that she was also sweating. The room became hotter and the sounds of moaning and the loud slaps from their skin could be heard.
Naruto felt Hinata's walls starting to clamp up on his member even harder, meaning that she was close. Naruto sped up his thrusts as he was also close to his orgasm. Hinata wrapped her arms around Naruto's back and her legs around his waist, pushing him deeper. "Naruto-kun! I'm coming," Hinata yelled as she climaxed. Naruto felt her walls tighten and he held onto her tighter, shooting his sperm deep inside of her. Hinata did her birth control jutsu so she didn't get pregnant yet. Naruto fell to the bed next to her, both taking deep breaths. Naruto kissed her one last time. "I love you, Hinata," Naruto whispered, embracing her. "I love you too," Hinata replied as Naruto pulled the sheets over them and they fell into a deep sleep in each other's arms. Lemon scene END. Next morning, within the dark room, a few beams of light managed to sneak through the windows and managed to hit Senju Naruto. Naruto started stirring. He felt he didn't get much sleep last night and he knew the reason when the memories came rushing into him. He looked down to see his princess clinging to him with a happy smile on her face. Naruto smiled and began to gently run his hands through her soft hair. No matter how messy it was for last night's activities, she remained beautiful. Her hair was so soft and silky, he just loved feeling her hair. Hinata began to stir as she felt someone gently stroking her hair. She instantly knew it was Naruto. She simply snuggled closer to him and sighed happily. "Morning, beautiful," Naruto whispered, kissing her forehead. "Good morning, Naruto-kun," Hinata replied, sighing blissfully. "Good night?" Naruto innocently asked, making Hinata giggle. "Best night of my life," Hinata replied, drawing circles in his chest. After all, they were both still naked and Naruto did enjoy having her breasts pressing against his chest. "I'm glad," Naruto said, and both fell into a comfortable silence, enjoying the warm feeling they got from being together. "Eh?" Naruto-kun, Hinata called out, and Naruto hummed in response. "Please tell me you placed some silence seals," Hinata said, blushing. "Why do you ask?" Naruto asked teasingly. I was a bit loud last night," Hinata mumbled beneath her breaths, making Naruto chuckle. "That was the most beautiful sound I've ever heard and it's reserved to me, so don't worry," Naruto replied, and Hinata nodded. She really didn't want to deal with Jiraiya if he found out they shared more than a bed last night. "Oh shit," Naruto thought when he heard snickering inside his mind. Naruto paled when he recognized the voice. He forgot to cut Kurama's connection last night. "I'm so proud of you, my boy," Kurama yelled from within his mind. "Please tell me you didn't watch," Naruto asked. "I did more than watch. I recorded it," Kurama replied, grinning like a fox. "Why would you do that? You don't even have a gender. How could you even get turned on?" Naruto asked, confused. While Kurama had a male personality, he really didn't have any of the organs to back it up. Kurama was a bijou. He didn't organs or bones or flesh, he was just chakra with a mind. "Sue. It's teasing material," Kurama replied, and Naruto's sweat dropped. "You okay, Naruto-kun?" Hinata asked as she watched Naruto space out. "Yeah. I forgot to cut Kurama off, so we did have an audience," Naruto said, rubbing the back of head, and Hinata blushed, but she didn't want to think of that right now. "You know," Naruto started, "Jiraiya and Gaara are probably worried about us. We have been here since last night and it's already noon," Naruto said, and Hinata pouted. "5 more minutes," Hinata pouted, making her best puppy dog face. "How about we go take a shower?" Naruto simply asked. "Toe together?" Hinata asked, blushing. Naruto just looked at her. He didn't think of that when he asked. Naruto got an evil glint of his eyes. "What are you implying, princess?" Naruto asked in a teasing voice. Nothing," Hinata stuttered, and Naruto chuckled. He pushed the sheets away from them and picked up Hinata from her bed, carrying her bridal style into the bathroom. When they were finished, they could both say it was the best shower they ever had. Outside, Jiraiya and Gaara were running through taijutsu katas trying to improve Gaara's taijutsu when they heard the door unlock. They stopped their training to see Naruto and Hinata walking out together. Naruto seemed fine, as if nothing had happened. "How are you feeling, Naruto?" Jiraiya asked, but Naruto waved him off as he sat down to eat something. "It's nothing. Everything that happened was because of my Rinnegan activating, I'm fine."
Naruto replied, and Jiraiya sighed in relief and turned to Hinata, who seemed to humming a tune while eating some bread. "I'm so proud of you," Jiraiya yelled and started dancing around the table like a headless chicken. "He's mental," Naruto thought as he looked at his godfather. "You finally became a man," Jiraiya said, crying anime tears. Gaara choked on his food, Hinata dropped her bread, and Naruto splashed water all over the table. "What?" Naruto asked, getting up from the table. "Don't try denying it, kid," Jiraiya said, crossing his arms. "I know that glow when I see it," Jiraiya said, pointing to Hinata, who was blushing and looking away. "Have you ever heard of privacy?" Naruto asked, yelling at his godfather. "So? Tell me," Jiraiya started, licking the tip of his pen and taking out a notebook. "How was she?" Jiraiya asked, and the temperature dropped several degrees. Even Gaara backed away, with Shikako telling him to run for his life. "I thought you stopped being a pervert, Jiraiya-sama?" Hinata sweetly asked. Jiraiya turned around, dropping his notebook and crying for mercy. Hinata punched him in the face so hard that even the ground shook. Jiraiya was sent flying out of the hotel and crashing into the ground, making a decent crater. "I forgot Bachan taught Hinata her super strength," Naruto thought to himself, and agreeing to never piss her off. Training grounds, all four of them ate their breakfast and came outside to train again. However, once they all got outside, they stopped and stared at Naruto as if waiting for something. "Let's see it," Jiraiya said, and Naruto sweat dropped and channeled chakra into his eyes. Everyone watched in fascination as Naruto's eyes became red with 3 black tomos, then they started spinning until they became his eternal Manjikyu Sharingan. Then it stopped. Naruto channeled more chakra into his eyes and they pulsed with a silver color. His eyes started spinning outwards, shrinking his pupil and forming several rings around the pupil. "I still don't believe I get to see another one," Jiraiya said, getting interested by Naruto's eyes. They seemed to be radiating power. "Wait," Naruto said, stopping Jiraiya in his tracks. "Another one?" Naruto asked, surprised that Jiraiya had already seen another. "Yes. During the Second Shinobi War back in Amagakure no Sato, Hidden Rain Village, I met 3 orphans from the war. One of them was called Uzumaki Nagato and he had the Rinnegan. It was the reason why I stayed behind 3 years to teach them," Jiraiya explained, and Naruto nodded. "Where's he now?" Naruto asked, getting curious. If what Kurama said was true, then there was a lost Senju and Uchiha member. "Dead," Jiraiya sadly said. "I got a report that they didn't survive the war despite my training," Jiraiya explained, sighing, and Naruto nodded. "According to Kurama, the Rinnegan is achieved by having both Senju and Uchiha blood in one vessel," Naruto said, and Hinata raised an eyebrow. "It makes sense." Hinata started from the legends. "It says that the Sage of the 6 Paths had 2 sons, each starting the Senju and Uchiha clans. It makes sense that uniting both bloods you get the original," Hinata explained, taking into account everything she learned about biology. "Although yours is different," Jiraiya said, brining his hands to his chin. Nagato's Rinnegan was permanently activated. He was never able to disable him, much less go through the Sharingan and Manjikyu stages, Jiraiya said, and Naruto raised an eyebrow in confusion. "Strange. Usually when you can't fully disable a Dojutsu, it means that it doesn't belong to the user to begin with. Like Kakashi's Sharingan," Naruto explained, but Jiraiya stopped him. "Are you saying someone took his eyes out and gave him the Rinnegan?" Jiraiya asked, confused. "I don't know. But if he couldn't deactivate his eyes, then they didn't belong to him," Naruto said. "Let's forget it." "Not to sound cold, but he's dead," Naruto said, and Jiraiya nodded. "Did he even had silver chakra?" Naruto asked, and Jiraiya raised an eyebrow. "My chakra is now silver colored instead of blue," Naruto said, and started unleashing chakra. Instead of the usual deep blue, ocean-like, colored chakra, his chakra was now silver, like the moon. "No. He had blue chakra like everyone else," Jiraiya said, and Naruto nodded, further sustaining his claim that this Nagato's Rinnegan didn't belong to him. "So, what can those eyes do?" Jiraiya asked. "The only thing he knew about those eyes is that it allowed Nagato to see chakra and use all 5 elements. According to Kurama, I now have affinity to all elements. I can manipulate gravity and absorb chakra. There are a few more, but Kurama only knows of those," Naruto explained, and Jiraiya's jaw dropped at the other powers. "Can you show us the gravity manipulation?" Gaara asked, curious. Sorry, but I don't know how to use it, Naruto said, rubbing the back of his head and making Jiraiya sigh. Do you have any chakra paper? Naruto asked, and Jiraiya nodded, taking out a few papers on the storage scrolls. He gave one to Naruto, who channeled chakra through it. Naruto's paper flew off his hand and started to levitate in the air. The paper split into 4 identical pieces, and one burned into ashes, the other crumbled into a tiny ball, another became soggy, and the last one disintegrated into dirt. This proved that Naruto now had affinity for all elements and, judging by the floating paper, affinity for gravity. Analyzing the paper, Naruto was happy that his lightning affinity remained high after his chakra changed. Looks like you were right, Jiraiya said as he watched the paper react. Let's start with the basics, Jiraiya said, and picked up a leaf from a nearby tree and gave it to Naruto. Channel chakra through the leaf until it crumbles to dirt, Jiraiya explained, and Naruto started training his earth element. Later he would move on to his water element since Hinata already knew how to use it. Naruto channeled chakra through the leaf and the poor leaf was instantly vaporized. Naruto yelled to the heavens. What's wrong? Jiraiya asked, confused. My chakra control went to hell. I spent so much time working on it, Naruto said, crying anime tears while everyone else sweat dropped at his antics. He had just awakened the most powerful jujutsu known to mankind. Of course there were bound to be some changes. Next day it was already dark and we could see Naruto and Hinata jumping from rooftop to rooftop. Their objectives were the Uchiha and Hyuga libraries. The Uchiha compound was being guarded by ANBU 24/7 to prevent any theft of jutsus or other information. While the Hyuga clan had their own members guarding it, and with their Byakugan it would be hard to sneak in, but Naruto and Hinata had already done it before. Their mission was to find any information they could about the Sage of Six Paths and his Jujutsu, the Rinnegan. They hastily approached the Hyuga clan, remaining at a safe distance from their walls so they didn't get caught. A pair of white and another of silver-colored eyes were the only visible thing in the midst of the darkness that covered Konoha during the night. Naruto looked up at the sky to see it cloudless. He could see the endless number of stars shining away in the sky. He also noticed that with his Rinnegan he was able to see a spherical barrier surrounding the entirety of Konoha. He never knew that Konoha housed such sensing barrier around it, but he figured it was a very well-kept secret. Hinata used her Byakugan and analyzed the patterns of the 4 guards guarding the Hyuga clan's walls. It was a shame that Naruto didn't have his Manjikyu when they last entered this compound, otherwise he could just warp right into the library. Hinata noticed that the guards only used their Byakugans every 5 minutes for a routine check. Once the guards deactivated their eyes, both Naruto and Hinata jumped in front of a Hyuga guard. The last thing he saw was a pair of blood-red eyes. Naruto placed a genjutsu on the guard, making Naruto and Hinata invisible to him. If the other guards found this guard on the ground, it would raise the alarms and that would screw their attempt. Naruto made them invisible as they easily walked up the walls and sneaked into the compound. Naruto had gained most of his chakra control back during the previous day with a couple hundred shadow clones. Interestingly enough, his chakra control became even better than it was before, allowing him to even use genjutsu with ease and making it possible for him, a jinchuriki, to use some healing techniques. They walked down the walls and Hinata still had her Byakugan activated. Naruto couldn't see through walls, so he left that to Hinata. Naruto used his Kamui and phased both through the walls until they reached the library. All of the scrolls were protected so that only the Byakugan could read them, another form of protection against anyone wishing to steal the secrets of the Hyuga clan. Naruto stood by the doors, watching for any stragglers that may pass by while Hinata and a couple of her clones skimmed through the scrolls, diaries, and records. Hinata couldn't believe what she was reading. In the whole library she didn't find anything not Byakugan related. It was Byakugan this and Byakugan that. She didn't find a single reference to any type of elemental jutsu. Hinata shook her head in defeat at her clan's blindness. The last time she was here, they were only coming to the gentle fist scrolls, but now that she was reading these scrolls she couldn't believe. They actually thought that the Byakugan was the greatest jujutsu of all, since everything in the library was directly tied to it. They were in for a change when she and Naruto deployed their plan that they have been cooking for years since Hinata's exile for her clan. This is a waste of time, Hinata whispered, placing the scrolls. Her former clan didn't even know the origins of the Byakugan. Anything? Naruto asked in a low voice, but Hinata shook her head. Nothing. Everything is this whole library pertains to the Byakugan. There's nothing about any other jujutsus, Hinata explained, and Naruto placed a hand on her shoulder and both swirled away from the compound, heading to the Uchiha compound next. Uchiha compound, as the Hyuga clan's library had been a bust, Naruto and Hinata moved into the Uchiha compound. Both of them stopped a few yards away from the walls where they could sense 5 ANBU guards in the area. That one is a censor, Naruto said, pointing to dragon-masked Umbu, who was completely still. While both Hinata and Naruto had very high stealth abilities, since they had extremely good chakra control bordering on perfect, not even they could bypass a censor. Censors could pick up even the lightest chakra around them. We have to knock him out, Naruto said, and Hinata nodded. I have just the thing, Hinata said, taking out a single sunban from her storage seals on her wrists. New poison? Naruto asked, chuckling. Yes. It will knock him out for a couple of hours and he won't remember anything that happened, Hinata said, and activated her Byakugan. The sensor seemed to have felt her eyes activate but slumped into the ground as the sunban hit him right in the neck. The ANBU never heard a noise, nor he felt anything. The moment the sunban hit his neck, the poison got deployed in the bloodstream, automatically knocking him out. Naruto phased underground and popped out in front of each of the ANBU, placing every one of them in a genjutsu. To the ANBUs, nothing had ever happened and they continued guarding the walls. Naruto and Hinata calmly walked into the compound and made their way into the library. They already knew the layout of the library, so they made their way into the history section. Both of them searched for almost an hour for any type of scroll related to the Rinnegan, until Naruto found one that might answer what he wanted. History of the Sage of the Six Paths. The Sage of the Six Paths, the father of all shinobi in every way of the word. He was the first human to ever be able to manipulate chakra. He was the savior of all humanity when they were faced against an overwhelming enemy. Not much is known about him, but we know that he existed, lived and died like any other shinobi today. I think we should start as to why he became such a legend. There was once a time in which humanity seemed to live in harmony without wars or hate. But that time was short-lived as, one day, a huge monster appeared out of nowhere, the Jubi, Ten-Tails, as it was later on called. This creature created tsunamis, crushed mountains, it split the continents apart. It's believed that today's world layout is a direct result to this creature's work. Nothing could rival its power. Mankind tried to fight, but they were squashed like bugs. When all hope seemed lost and mankind seemed to have accepted their fate, a new hope rose. A single man appeared and faced the great Jubi alone. Their battle was fierce and destructive, but, in the end, a single man was able to defeat the Jubi and trap it inside in himself. That man was the Sage of Six Paths. During the remains of his life he traveled the world, spreading the Ninshu doctrine, or ninjutsu as today it's called. When his time came, he knew that once he died the terrifying beast would be unleashed upon the world again, and, this time, there wouldn't anyone else to save them from this creature. The sage made a decision that would change this world's fate forever. He split this creature's chakra into 9 different vessels he himself had created. Using the yin energy he created the bodies of what later on would be called the Bijou, tailed beasts, and by adding yang energy, the sage breathed life into them, making them living beings. Once he split this creature's chakra into the 9 vessels, he created the moon to trap the creature's body inside it, locking it away for all eternity. And so the great monster was defeated and the sage himself passed away. This is the beginning of the story of the greatest hero of our history. The story of the Sage of the Six Paths, the story of the first mortal to achieve powers of a god. Nothing that I already don't know. But I wonder about these yin and yang energies, Naruto thought to himself, placing the scroll back in its place and continuing to look around. Naruto continued to look around more until he found another dusty scroll that, by the looks of it, it was very old and not much used. Naruto tried to open it, but the scroll didn't budge. Naruto activated his Rinnegan and saw a small seal applied to it. Fuin Kai, sealing jutsu, release, Naruto said, and the seal glowed before it disappeared, opening the scroll. The Sharingan, one of 3 great jujutsus known to mankind. The trademark of the Uchiha clan and their members. It's said that the Sharingan's predecessor was the Rinnegan, as legends say that Uchiha members are descendant of the Sage of Six Paths himself.
These eyes are blood red with 1 to 3 black tomos, depending on how matured the eye is, around the pupil.
The Sharingan houses many powers: the ability to copy any type of taijutsu, ninjutsu, or genjutsu, the ability to see chakra, the ability to predict the enemy's movements, and the ability to induce the enemy into a genjutsu with a small glance. However, some say there is another level to it. Some speak of the legendary Manjikyu Sharingan. No much is known about this level or how to achieve it. Only 2 members ever achieved this level, Uchiha Madara and his little brother Uchiha Izuna.
With those eyes, Uchiha Madara was able to fight Senju Hashirama, the leader of the Senju clan, wielder of the Mokuton, to a standstill. Naruto continued looking down through the scroll that showed how to use the Sharingan and some other low-level techniques to use with them. He finally reached the end of the scroll and found one last jutsu with several warnings.
Izanagi S-rank Kenjutsu. Izanagi is the ultimate genjutsu of Uchiha clan. When cast, the user removes the boundaries between reality and illusion within their personal space. To a certain degree, this allows the user to control their own state of existence, but it is normally only active for the briefest of moments. While the user remains physically real while fighting, this technique is capable of turning any occurrence, including injuries and even death inflicted upon them, while the technique is active, into mere illusions. Whenever the user receives a fatal injury, he or she automatically fades away as though they were an illusion all along and then returns back to reality, physically real and unscathed. This technique is based on the creation of all things technique used by our ancestor, the Sage of the Six Paths. The process involves the administration of imagination, the spiritual energy which forms the basis of yin energy to create shape and form from nothingness. Then, through the application of vitality, the physical energy which forms the basis of yang energy, the sage would breathe life into the prior form. Thus, a technique with the power to turn imagination into reality was born, known as Izanagi. While this technique is much weaker than the creation of all things, it can be used by those of Uchiha blood with their Sharingan. However, it comes with a heavy price. In exchange for the brief control of reality that it allows them, the Sharingan with which Izanagi is cast becomes blind. For this reason our clan has labeled it a Kenjutsu. Naruto read this with his eyes widened. He already knew that his eyes were strong, but to be able to create form from nothing and breathe life into it. "I assume that's how you were born?" Naruto asked his partner, who nodded. The sage really was something else. Being able to create and give life is meant for gods. Not mortals. Naruto thought to himself if he ever would be able to do the same thing with his Rinnegan. While the Uchihas would become blind due to not possessing the Rinnegan, theoretically Naruto would be able to use these techniques to the extreme without any type of backslash. "I think we have everything," Hinata-kun, Naruto said, and she nodded, placing everything back in place. Hinata did one last scan around the compound as they were about to leave. "Wait," Hinata called out as she seemed to find some type of storage underneath the Uchiha's main hall. "There seems to some type of room beneath the main hall," Hinata called out, and Naruto raised an eyebrow. "Let's check it out," Naruto said, and both walked out the library and into the main hall. They quickly reached the main hall. "Where's the entrance?" Naruto asked to Hinata, who had her Byakugan blazing and searching the surroundings, analyzing that room's layout. "I can't seem to find it. The whole area is shrouded in chakra," Hinata explained. "Can you place us directly on top of the room?" Naruto asked, and Hinata nodded. They both walked into the main hall and stopped in the middle of the room. "It's directly beneath us," Hinata said, pointing to the ground. "How much further down?" Naruto asked, and Hinata estimated the length. "About 5 meters," Hinata answered, and Naruto nodded. Naruto hugged Hinata and used his Kamui to sink underground until they reached the room. It took them only a couple of seconds until they touched the ground inside the room. Everything in the room was dark that even Naruto and Hinata could barely see with their dijitsus. "Katon, Gokakyu no Jutsu, great fireball technique," Naruto said, and sent a very small fireball towards to nearby torches. He used it a couple more times until the whole room was lit. They looked around and the room had nothing more than a table with many chairs around it. He looked towards the other corner. In the middle of another small room was a single stone. The stone was surrounded by 2 torches, one in each side, and it appeared to be old, very old. Naruto still had his normal Sharingan activated from using his Kamui and started reading the tablet. "What are you doing?" Hinata asked, confused. "The tablet is blank," Hinata said, and Naruto raised an eyebrow. "It seems that only the Sharingan can read it," Naruto replied as he could see the text perfectly and started reading. "Congratulations on unlocking the Sharingan, my fellow descendant. The Sharingan, the Dujutsu of my eldest. With it, you are capable of many things. The base Sharingan has 3 levels. With 1 Tomo." Naruto read again what the Sharingan could do, until he reached the last section of the tablet. "But there is more to the Sharingan. My eldest seems to have unlocked another stage to it. He called it Manjikyu Sharingan. With it, his power is far greater than the standard Sharingan. With these new eyes that he unlocked, he's able to Sadrgs SDFSFWGQWGRTHYDSFSDFSDF. Naruto got confused as he suddenly couldn't read anymore. That part of the tablet seemed to be some random letters all scribbled together. "Try using your Manjikyu to read it," Kurama suggested, and Naruto didn't have anything to lose. Naruto activated his Manjikyu and the random letters seemed to rearrange themselves to form coherent phrases and words. He's able to access powerful ninjutsus, and other types of illusions far greater than the ones provided by the standard Sharingan. With his new eyes, he's also able to see better and with far more detail than before. According to him, he unlocked these eyes when he was sparring with my youngest. What can I say? Their training battles always seem to escalate and I'm the one who has to fix everything. I wrote this tablet at my eldest request. He wants to leave something of him for his future descendants, but something that only his descendants can read. I also decided to leave, in this tablet, how it all began. It was as dad were state your way this again, Naruto thought to himself, sighing. He decided to activate his Rinnegan to see if he could read it. Surprisingly enough, all the text in tablet became visible. It was a time of war. Mankind was constantly at war, endless bloodshed from all sides that seemed to stop at nothing. When someone thought that the war was over, it was still the beginning. My mother, Kagaya Otsutsuki, sought a way to end the war and all the pain and loss of life that came from it. In our home there was a tree. It was a tree of such magnificence and magnitude that some considered it to be a god. This god tree easily outshone mountains in terms on height, it would never lose any leaves or seem to grow old and wither. According to the scrolls, the god tree has always been there and our records go back thousands of years. According to the scrolls, every millennium this tree would generate a small fruit. While the scrolls clearly said that it was forbidden to eat it, my mother was desperate with the war looming outside of her lands. She decided to consume this forbidden fruit of the god tree. With it, she became able to manipulate chakra and allowed her to single-handedly end the war that seemed to plague the lands. Years passed and the flame of war never once ignited again. Then I, Hagoromo Otsutsuki, was born. I inherited the same type of power my mother possessed and along with it, I received my Dujutsu which I called Rinnegan. The years passed and I grew older. But, as time passed, the god tree's desire to reclaim its power also rose. The god tree decided to strike against my mother in order to reclaim its lost power. That was what people would later on call the Jubi. It was a gruesome battle, but in the end, I was able to seal him inside of me, temporarily defeating it. When I reached my last years, I knew that once I died, the Jubi would be set free and I couldn't allow that to happen. I split the Jubi's chakra into 9 vessels: Shikaku, Matatabi, Isabu, Sengoku, Kokuo, Seiken, Chome, Gyuki, and finally Kurama. Once I was finished, I sealed the Jubi's shell in the moon, which I created with my creation of all things. If you are reading this, then you also bear the Rinnegan. Take it as final wish from me. If there is still war, then find a way to stop it. I may not have grown with war, but I felt its effects during my travels. War brings nothing but death, pain, and suffering to both sides. It's a never-ending cycle of hatred. Good luck, my fellow descendant. Naruto stood silent for a few seconds, taking in everything he read. He now knew everything: how it began, why it began, and the sage's final wish. If there is peace, then I'll find it. I'm not gonna run away, and I never go back on my word. That is my ninja way. I promise you, old man, Naruto said, getting up with his Rinnegan blazing. Did you know all of this, Kurama? Naruto asked his partner, who was silent. I never knew.
The old man never told us how it began and he was always cryptic with his words, Kurama replied, and Naruto nodded. I have everything I need, Naruto said, placing a hand on Hinata's shoulder. Let's go home, Naruto said, and they both disappeared in a flash.
Naruto now knew what he wanted to do, what he needed to do, his goal in his life.
He would bring peace to his war-plagued world, he would break the chains of hatred and lead to the world to true peace like his predecessor had wanted.
Time skipped 6 months. 6 months had gone by and Naruto threw himself into training even harder than before. Both Hinata, Gaara, and Jiraiya had asked him what had happened when he read that tablet.
Naruto just replied that he knew everything and that he found his goal in life and he would leave it at that. While the Sharingan's powers seemed to be awakened during time of high stress, the Rinnegan was extremely different. The Rinnegan's powers seemed to come naturally to Naruto, like walking or breathing. That's the reason why Naruto could already use all of his 6 paths. When he discovered his animal path and summoned a large creature, Kurama fainted in his mind thinking Naruto had summoned the Geto Mazo from the moon. Poor fox.
After the whole event of the summoning, Kurama decided to warn Naruto so he didn't accidentally summon it. Kurama explained to him that some things are best left alone and not be tampered with.
In the first week, Naruto learned his gravity manipulation and learned how to use his Deva path. The next week he discovered the animal path. During a spar with Jiraiya he discovered his Preta path. 1 month later he discovered his Azura path, and, another week later, he learned human path. During a mission he learned the last of his paths, the Naraka path, or so he thought. During the mission an innocent victim was killed because Naruto didn't reach him in time. Naruto didn't know what came to him, he just started going through hand seals automatically, as if he had already known them. Naruto unlocked his 7th and final ability, the Outer Path.
The Outer Path gave Naruto control over life and death. With it, Naruto could bring back anyone that had died, and he also learned of a new technique he could use. He finally understood why the sage was called the Sage of the 6 Paths. Naruto could create 6 paths, 6 clones or bodies, and each one could use one of the paths.
Naruto discovered the metal which his fan was made of when he himself had created the same material.
The material seemed like steel and yet was stronger and lighter.
Naruto thought he had already mastered all of his paths and began training in the last thing he could think of, Yin and Yang releases and their last form Yin-Yang release.
Do you think it's wise? Jiraiya said to Naruto regarding what he was about to do.
These things are reserved for gods, Naruto, Jiraiya warned.
What is a god, Jiraiya sensei? Naruto asked, and Jiraiya was thrown back by his question. If a god is someone that can live forever, then I'm a god. If a god is someone that knows everything, then I can be a god. If it is someone who can be anywhere, then I'm a god. And if it is someone who is all-powerful,
then I am a god because there is nothing I can't do, Naruto replied, looking at the sky.
Naruto looked down at the ground in front of him.
In the ground were 5 blood vials and a locket of someone's hair. You are not a god, Naruto, Jiraiya yelled at his godson.
Maybe. Maybe not. It doesn't matter. I can do this if I wish. It's my choice, Naruto replied. I know.
I'm just trying to warn you that once you cross this line you can't go back.
While you have this power, you must be responsible with it. This isn't some strength jutsu that you can throw around. You are dealing with life and death here.
While I would like nothing more than to see them once again, you can't just be using it like nothing.
Remember that there is a balance to be maintained.
Jiraiya explained, and Naruto was locked deep in thought. I've made my choice, Naruto said, and Jiraiya stood silent. Maybe it's jealously of me, or maybe it is just necessary. I can think of 3 reasons as to why I should do this, Naruto said, and gathered his thoughts.
1. Is to stop Orochimaru from bringing them back. 2.
They all sacrificed their lives to protect our home. And 3. I made a promise to her a couple years ago, Naruto said. My dream is to become Hokage, Naruto said, and Jiraiya smiled, but Naruto said, and Jiraiya listened, it's also to bring peace to this world. My ancestor died dreaming that the world his mother created would last, Naruto explained, and started looking at the sky again.
Look around, Naruto started. Suna is at Konoha's throats because of what happened back during the invasion.
IWA is still revengeful because of the Third Shinobi War.
War is a never-ending cycle of hatred and I will be the one to break it. If there is such thing called peace, I'll be the one to achieve it. I won't back down and I won't give up. Because that's my ninja way, Naruto said, and both Hinata and Gaara smiled at his words. Those words. Jiraiya thought to himself, remembering the first book he ever wrote. If I can't find the answer to peace, then maybe I'll entrust it to you, Jiraiya said, ruffling Naruto's hair. Let's do it, Jiraiya said, and Naruto nodded, crouching on the floor and picking up the first blood vial. On Mayaton, Banbutsu Sozo, Yin-Yang release, creation of all things, Naruto said, and started concentrating of the blood inside the vial. The vial started levitating between Naruto's hands. Naruto's chakra flared and his eyes glowed. The glass vial was instantly vaporized, leaving only the blood bloating in the air. Naruto's hair was flapping wildly as he began to work on his technique. The blood seemed to stay still until it began to become agitated. All of the blood seemed to compact into a small brownish ball with small indentations. Naruto started spreading his hands, the small ball started glowing and expanding. Everything around Naruto sparkled with life, grass and trees grew from the ground, flowers blossomed. Naruto was radiating life all around him. 2. Incredible, Hinata said, amazed to what Naruto was doing. Naruto was creating life out of nothing. The grass never looked so green as the flowers more beautiful. This was the work of a god. The ball was getting bigger and bigger and was showing 5 protuberances from it. Naruto kept focusing on it, he was calm and relaxed. Naruto barely felt his chakra getting spent. Kurama and Shikaku just watched in fascination the true power of the Rinnegan. It was the first time they were experiencing the yin-yang release and it felt wonderful. The 2 upper protuberances expanded outwards, reaching beyond half a meter. The 2 lower protuberances continued extending further, reaching 1 meter. At the end of these protuberances, 5 small other ones started growing out. These small protuberances were in fact fingers and the larger ones arms and legs. The last protuberance seemed rounder and sturdier and was in fact a head. Naruto continued his jutsu and everyone watched in fascination as Naruto was creating a human body out of nothing. The previous blood was just a map, so Naruto knew what skin color to choose, if he was tall or short and if he was a he to begin with. The procedure started slowing down as the skin started taking a light tone. Small mounds of flesh started growing out in the middle of chest, indicating that this one was female. Hair started growing out of her head until it reached her waistline. It suddenly turned into fiery red hair. The process slowed down even more and everyone could see a woman lying on the grass. She had a slender but feminine build, fair skin, fiery red hair. She was Senju Kushina, Naruto's mother, and she was back. The process ended and her body started breathing suddenly. Naruto stood up to admire his handiwork. In front of him was his mother, almost back to life. Almost, because, while he had created her body, he still needed her soul. Summoning Jutsu, soul retrieval, Naruto said, going through hand seals. This technique was a variation of the Edo Tensei. This technique would retrieve any soul from the pure world and implant it in a vessel of Naruto's choosing. Naruto could easily control souls with his human path due to the Rinnegan. Naruto caught the soul and slowly pushed it inside of Kushina's body. Kushina took a very deep breath and went back to her normal breathing. Kushina started stirring and slowly opened her eyes to show her ocean-deep blue eyes like Naruto. Welcome back, cousin, mother, Naruto said, helping her sat up and adjust to her surroundings and new body. Naruto? Kushina asked, looking at the blonde in front of her. She looked around to see the pervert, Naruto's girlfriend Hinata, and an unknown redhead. Where am I? Kushina asked. Easy. I brought you back. You need time to adjust to this body, Naruto said, helping her get to her feet. I fulfilled my promise, Naruto said, giving her a thumbs up. I promise I'll find a way to make our family whole again. Kushina smiled as she remembered back when she was summoned via the Edo Tensei. Thank you, Naruto-kun, Kushina said, hugging him and letting a few tears drop from her face. Naruto just hugged his mother, glad to have her back for real. There are a few other I need to bring back. Why don't you sit and watch, Naruto said, and Kushina nodded, sitting down and watching Naruto pick up the hair sample. On Mayatan, Banbutsu Sozo, Yin-Yang release, creation of all things, Naruto said, and Kushina's jaw dropped when she saw Naruto's eyes. It was the Rinnegan. Naruto went through the same procedure and it was another woman. This person had fair skin with dark long eggplant hair slightly past her waist and side bangs framing her face down to her shoulders. She looked almost like Hinata and she was Hyuga Hana, Hinata's mother. "Where am I?" Hana asked as she woke up. Naruto helped her get up and handed her to Hinata, who was fighting back tears. "Kakakasan, mother," Hinata said, stuttering, barely containing her tears. Hinata had suffered so much since her mother passed away after giving birth to Hanabi. Heineken, Hana said, looking at the girl, no, woman in front of her. She felt like looking at a mirror. The woman in front of her reminded her of her daughter Hinata. "Is that you?" Hana asked, and Hinata nodded, jumping and hugging her mother fiercely. "How am I alive?" Hana asked, confused, and Hinata sat her down and started explaining everything that happened since she died. Naruto went through the same procedure and brought back the rest of his family, Senju Hashirama, Senju Tobarama, and also Uzumaki Nito. Now was the time for last member of his family, his father Namake's Minato. Naruto created his body and let him on the ground. Creating his body was easy compared to where his soul was. Naruto had created a way to retrieve his soul, but it would only work for Rinnegan users. Snake, boar, ram, rabbit, dog, rat, bird, horse, snake, shiki, fujin, dead demon, consuming seal, Naruto said, clapping his hands and summoning the death god where his father's soul was. Naruto turned around to face the death god. Naruto used his human path and introduced his hand inside the Shinigami's stomach and removed the single soul that resided there. The soul of his father was now free of the death god's clutches. Naruto ended the jutsu and introduced the soul into his father's vessel. Minato took a deep breath and groggily opened his eyes. "Father?" Minato asked, staring at the person in front of him. "That's just creepy. My father thinking I'm his father," Naruto thought to himself. "Welcome back, Tusan, father," Naruto said, and Minato's eyes widened. "And Naruto," Minato said, shocked, looking at man in front of him. If he really was Naruto, then he did grow up some since the last time he saw him. "It's me, old man," Naruto said, chuckling. "Come," Naruto said, and helped Minato into his feet. "I'll explain everything," Naruto said, and everyone went back to the hotel for some long overdue explanations. With their help, I'll achieve true peace, Naruto thought as he also walked inside. Man, Tsunade is going to have some rough time when they come home.